Hi, this is Scott. I really appreciate our sponsors because they make the show possible. Today's show is sponsored by Telerik. Create compelling app experiences across any screen with the Telerik platform. Telerik's end-to-end platform uniquely combines industry-leading UI tools with cloud services to simplify the entire app development cycle. Telerik offers everything .NET developers need to build quality apps faster. Try it free at telerik.com/platform. That's telerik.com/platform.
From hanselminutes.com, it's Hansel Minutes, a weekly discussion with web developer and technologist Scott Hanselman. This is Lawrence Ryan announcing show number 532. In this episode, Scott talks with Oz du Soleil about data literacy and the usefulness of Excel.
Hi, this is Scott Hanselman. This is another episode of Hansel Minutes. Today we're talking with Oz du Soleil. He owns Datascopic, and he's the author of Guerrilla Data Analysis using Microsoft Excel. Excel is like the hidden data tool that everybody uses, but nobody wants to admit it.
Yes, that's true.
So you believe that Excel is getting a bad rap and people need to step up and recognize that Excel is where it's at?
I think so. You know, I've gone to hackathons as an Excel developer, and there is no line for Excel developer. They've got the JSON and the, C# and everything else. But where's Excel? Everywhere, but not on this list.
But you've been an Excel MVP now 2 years in a row. So somebody recognizes that there's value in Excel, but you Microsoft. Think that it's a really good data tool.
It is. Yes. It is a data tool. Yes.
So where's that line? I mean, I think that there's a class of people out there that have data in big enterprise databases, and they have huge CRM systems, and they got folks with, small systems. Where does Excel fit, and when does Excel as database appropriate?
Well, Excel power users, we straddle a line between, hardcore defined IT and people who do the work. So somebody who does SQL or they build apps, that's their profession. But then you have somebody who's a grant writer at a nonprofit or a customer service rep like I was, or a commissions analyst. Our job is grant writer, not, SQL coder. Mm-hmm. So Excel straddles those worlds because we have to be kind of IT, kind of tech, but also kind of in the business side of things. Mm-hmm. So when the grant writer can't get data in such a way to show a foundation where their $30,000 grant went, we've got to help. Okay, why can't you get the data? Okay, because it's sprinkled between different databases. It's on different computers. It's on different spreadsheets. Now, how do we sweep all of this stuff together so that you can say something to this foundation? The part-time IT person, they're not involved with that. And I had a conversation with somebody recently where he said that their IT person, their job is to keep the website up.
Okay. So that was, in their mind, IT people are, operations.
Yes. Not help us show where that $30,000 went. That's not their concern.
I gotcha. So when you think of like a Microsoft Office power user, this is a person that has as much the business in mind as they have the technology in mind.
Yes. And it's been exciting. I have a friend who's an IT director, and she says that, they don't see a lot of the consequences of, when data's bad or when it takes forever to get a report fixed or you just find out that a report is messed up. They don't see, I've been on the phone with people who were in tears or they were mad about something. And then I've got to go to an IT person who they don't take calls from the public. They don't understand enough about the business to understand what went wrong. What happens when somebody has 8 profiles in the database? Well, within, say, a few hours can get all of that stuff out of the database, merge those 8 profiles in Excel and get this person straightened out. But if I had to rely on IT to do it, then it's got to be prioritized and it's got to go through all kind of things. And, then, I've had them say, it's month end and I've got to support accounting to close last month. And then I've got this thing to do for the CFO and the CEO. And then I can get back to helping you with your one person and their professional license.
So you're also describing, though, Excel as like a business dashboard. You're building these aggregating dashboards where you're pulling data from multiple locations with the business person in mind. Mm-hmm. We can go and buy these dashboards. Aren't there whole industries around building these dashboards?
Well, there's a lot of times this stuff is ad hoc. And this is where it helps to, understand the business and be really in touch with the consequences, because a lot of times this stuff is one time.
I see.
But you got to be familiar with the business and the data enough to know what to pull and what needs to be put together and where to start looking for problems.
And you've said on your blog, and I've seen videos with you saying that one of the biggest problems that you find is data validation. Like you're known as like the data cleaner. Mm-hmm. People, garbage in, garbage out is really like a part of what you have to deal with every day. So data validation is super important. And do you find Excel to be good at that?
Yeah. Well, now the data validation, that's the piece that helps crap from going in.
I see. So
right.
It's not crap at all if you catch it before someone messes it up.
Right. So, data validation, like, birthdays, how do you prevent somebody from accidentally putting today's date into a field, and saying I was born today? No, those kinds of problems. And I've pointed out that when those things happen, I'm expensive to fix that stuff. So if you can put some validation on the front end, that would help a lot. And then your analysis would be better, and minimize the cleaning. But then, I've gotten a reputation for fighting for cleaning data, because all this stuff about big data and dashboards and data visualization, it's no good if the data is not clean. Mm-hmm. Or if you can't clean it, that's a skill that few people have, because people do learn to do the analysis and build the dashboards and everything, but their instructor or whomever will show up with clean data for them to work with.
You've also, on your blog, you have actually a whole section on data integrity. One of the blog posts that you did that I like was about, you called it the octopus spreadsheet. Mm-hmm. And I think it's like people who think they're slick with Excel, and then suddenly they go from me having, a sheet to multiple sheets linked to other workbooks. They've got, all of this pulling from multiple places. Like, I know that you advocate for using Excel for maybe a lot more stuff than people typically do.
Right.
But how complicated is too complicated? Like, what's the perfect Excel spreadsheet that how big's too big?
Well, I say that layout is critical. Mm-hmm. That's more critical than knowing fancy formulas.
Okay.
Because you'll have something that starts out with, we just need to count orders so that we can do a week over week count of orders. Mm-hmm. And then over years, it turns into a forecasting thing that also has alerts in it for when we need to order more stuff. So right. now you've got this big old octopus with all these tentacles on it. And it gets to be a problem when you're copying and pasting things in multiple places, because now you have an error location, right? A potential for errors, because, your copy and paste could be bad, or you get the same information needs to be pasted in 4 different places, and you paste them in 2 and have to go to the bathroom and come back and then go to lunch and then forget to paste the other 2.
Right. So it sounds like you advocate for some data normalization and avoiding duplication, if at all, at all costs. There should be one place where that data exists.
Right. And think about the flow of it, Yeah, where does this data have to get to? And then really minimize all that manual stuff.
I think most people, and I think myself as well, know just enough Excel to be dangerous. I think when I think of Excel, and maybe people who are listening, they think, all right, well, I have lists of stuff, I have columns, and then maybe I have sums, and then maybe we have subtotals. And I think people are willing to put that on their resume and say, yeah, I know Excel. But if you really know Excel, you're going to start learning about some of the formulas and like the top functions that you need to know. That's way beyond just if statements.
Yes. That's when you get into somebody who's really using Excel.
Yep. Do you think that the programmers that are listening, like the types of folks that usually listen to my show are programmers, do you think that they're missing out having Excel in their toolkit? They might be a little snobbish and think, Excel. I'll write that in C#.
I think so. But the thing is, I had a lot of arguments with people back in Chicago. I've been in Portland for almost 2 years, and the reception has been warmer. I had a conversation with, say, Portia Burton. She's one of the first few people I met when I got to Portland. Okay. And she said, you know what? We leave the Excel users out of all these tech and IT conversations. And she saw that clients constantly send them spreadsheets. We can talk about R and all of these different, scripting things that professional developers use. But what's the client doing? Sending them spreadsheets, sending them octopus spreadsheets. And I did a presentation a few months ago for some data scientists that showed, because the conversation there was, we get these spreadsheets, we bring the data in, and there's something going on, and then I'll write a Python script to do some kind of cleansing. And so I was able to show them, okay, there's Power Query that is set up to do things like, parse text, merge text, unpivot things. Now it can do joins and anti-joins. Yes. So there's so much that can be done. If you get a client's data and it has to be cleansed, you might not have to write some Python thing in order to do it. There might be something in Excel already. And so I was offering that as it's just another tool. That's all. I'm not saying that Excel is better than R or Python at all by any means.
But it's a tool. It's a tool that we are maybe overlooking.
Yeah.
And when we were talking earlier before the show, you made a really interesting statement that kind of blew my mind a little bit and got me thinking maybe I am not thinking about Excel as a prototyping tool. Like you've gone to people who say, we're going to build an app. We're going to make this great app. It's going to be wonderful.
Yep.
And, you can prototype on paper. You can prototype in the language you're going to write in.
Yeah.
But you've written like full business applications in Excel and say, make it behave exactly like this. And then Excel is the specification that you have given to the developers.
Yep, exactly. Because, I would come in cheaper than somebody who is a professional developer, right? And my client, they might know financial management. Okay. And they have an idea for an app. So he would have me build a tool that calculates in the person did something on this date and we got to prorate this cost. And if they do this and if they do that, and then I want to have this report come out and I want the report to bring in this type of information and look this way and use our logo over here.
I assume you have to iterate over this multiple times. You're going back and forth with the client all the time.
Yes. And if he was doing that with his development team, that'd be a lot of money. So he saw it as cheaper to go back and forth with me to get it right so that he could then take it to his developers. And he said that not only is it cheaper for him to have me as a step prototyping in Excel, but, and he talks my language. He may not be able to write the formulas that I write, but he can look at them and he can put in scenarios to see if what he expects comes out is actually what comes out. And once we have it all locked down, then he can turn it over to the developers whose language he does not speak.
Right. Now, are you collaborating with them in the sense that he's making changes to the spreadsheet himself? Like, is Excel potentially a collaboration tool where business users can actually make the changes and send it back and say, no, like this?
Yeah. At least, the way that, we were working, it was just, just save it and email it or put it in a shared folder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that developers tend to exclude the business users, maybe on accident. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, we're going to put that in Git and then GitHub, and it's going to be written in R or or Python or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly, without us realizing it, we have locked up the knowledge for the very person that we are working for.
Yeah.
And someone might be listening and going, they may stick their nose up like, oh man, he is emailing spreadsheets around. How is that a solution? But in a one-on-one relationship, solving a real business problem, like that's, you could say it's sloppy. You could say it's the height of pragmatism to solve the problem that way.
Right. Yeah. And it can go either way, and then you do have to start thinking about version control. Definitely get those old things out of the way. Mm-hmm. But then, I've developed a practice of having an archive folder, in case we do have to go back, because sometimes we'll say, okay, that part that we were working on last week is working better than the one now. Okay. So we can go back to it, but at least it's out of the way,
I'm sure Excel doesn't exactly lend itself to source control anyway. It really is just about previous versions and keeping track of what you've done.
Yeah.
I've also noticed that you have a YouTube, and people we'll send folks to your website, look at your book and your YouTube. But I thought I was pretty good at Excel. I could write some formulas, but there's some really advanced stuff that at least I thought it was advanced, like VLOOKUP, like doing like master detail reports and things where you can have someone enter something in, look it up in a totally different location, bring that data in. And if you forget about the headers and the column headers and the row headers, it sure looks like an application. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it looks like anything you could write. Have you ever given someone an Excel spreadsheet thinking this will be the prototype for the devs to write, and then have them say, we'll just use this. Like we don't even need to have them write the app. We'll just use Oz's Excel sheet.
I've had clients start that way. I haven't had directly, we start to build something and then they say, oh, never mind with the devs. But I have had some people say that, we started with some developers and we're just going to do this in Excel, or we started to do something. I had some people, they were going to try Tableau, and they had the $999 a year per person. Okay. That wasn't an issue. We gave Tableau a week, and our 4-person team, we don't have time to go through the learning curve and stuff. And Excel is good enough.
Okay. So Tableau is a data visualization desktop. Right. There's a desktop and a server, and it's considerably more expensive if you already own a copy of Office.
Yeah.
So they've gone with Excel rather than going with a more complicated thing.
Yeah. And I agree with a statement I heard a few years ago that Excel is the second best tool for everything.
Yeah. Somebody said that what did someone say? 80% of the world's business logic runs in Excel. Like, I don't know, behind every great business is something running in Excel. Something. I mean, I know that. Yeah, I've done a lot of work in Excel over the years, and I noticed that the title of your book that you did with Bill Jelen is Guerrilla Data Analysis. Like there's an acknowledgement in that word guerrilla that maybe people won't necessarily respect what you're doing, but you're saying though you get down and get your hands dirty.
Yes.
You can do it.
Yes, and I liked it. See, he asked me to update the book. He had titled the book Guerrilla Data Analysis back when he wrote the original in 2002. And when he asked me to update it a year ago, I said, Guerrilla, yes, because Excel users, we are that guerrilla army. We're the ones who have to go out in the street with our bats and Molotov cocktails and raggedy plans and half-hearted people. And we have to go out there and win. You know, we aren't the professionals who know all of the codes and stuff, but we have to go up against them and win. And I stay focused on the people who have to live with the consequences. You know, the chef that goes to the store and doesn't have the right shopping list, right? I've dealt with that. You know, a chef that wanted to take a list of the week's needs, you know, and I built an app for her in Excel, you know.
Do you think that as we are out there trying to teach people to code and teach kids how to code, that we might be not focused enough on data literacy?
You're making me sad, man. Making me sad, man.
Are you crying for the babies that don't understand how to manipulate data?
Yes. Because I get the apps and everything, but yes, data literacy. Yes. You know, because something like pivot tables. Pivot tables are easy in Excel, right?
Pivot tables should be an interview question. You want to see somebody who says, I know Excel on their resume and make them cry. You say, all right, bang out a pivot table for me.
Yeah. But now, see, the thing, what I've learned is a lot of people's data is not ready to go into the pivot table. They've got to do something to it to get it there. Now, how do we get people thinking about what it's going to take? Yes, data literacy. That's the term. That's beyond anything I have to say about Excel. It's more data literacy. Okay, so you started doing your analysis. Have you checked the data quality? You know, all of this coding and stuff, you know, is frustrating. But I did talk with the founder of one of the coding schools here in Portland, and her position was, look at the need, look at the market. People who code can go get jobs, period. Okay, so then, you know, anything I might have said about, but Excel, well, that wasn't how she was thinking, because what she did was she went on a website and she pulled something up and showed, here is the need for Excel developers. Here is the need for JSON developers. Look at the graph. Okay, I get that. I have no argument in that, you know, because she's not in a job of, you know, dealing with grant writers who have to deal with data. She's trying to get people jobs. But
do you think that we should be teaching like Office more advanced? Like, I know there are classes where we teach Office in school.
Right.
But, you know, on the Microsoft Word side, one of my most popular YouTube videos was showing people how to use styles. You know, and I feel like there's this like, I know how to use Word. I open it, I type, and I hit save. And people think the same thing about Excel.
Right.
But back in my day, there were 40-hour-a-week-long classes, teaching people how to use Excel, and we only scratched the surface.
Oh, yeah.
And now we don't seem to respect that anymore. No one seems to think that's a problem.
No. And I think that it would be helpful in some of these coding schools to show people Excel, because I'm sure that they're dealing with data if only, you know, clients are giving them stuff in Excel. You know, and they don't have to then manipulate it in R and Python and stuff, that they can use what Excel has in it. You know,
it's definitely would be a recognition also that the world, the computer world, the technology world is not very pretty. You know, and when you get into an enterprise, there's some messy stuff going on in there.
Yes, there is.
Data is not pretty. Businesses run on Excel. Right. Businesses run on databases with bad data in.
Yep.
And there's money, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but there's money to be made solving those real problems for real people.
Yep. And lots of ad hoc, lots of things going on with no process or no formal process. So this all gets into the data literacy and beyond Excel, beyond all of this coding.
Right.
Yeah.
So collecting, manipulating, interpreting, auditing data, understanding that life is lists, sometimes well-structured, sometimes not well-structured, and how to deal with that. I'm sure that the Unix people would agree too, because, when they're not using Excel, they use, awk and sed and regular expressions, and they move data through these pipelines. The only difference is you're building your pipelines in Excel.
Yep.
So where do people start? Do they go to YouTube? Do they take a class? It seems like poking around in Excel only gets you so far.
Right. There is, asking, is it possible in Excel? Or is there a better way than, my pasting something in pasting the same information in 4 different places? Is there a better way? Asking, is there a tool in Excel that can, do a left anti-join for me, or do an inner join? And in 15 years, when somebody is asked, can Excel do this? The answer has always been yes. Now, they might not like the price tag of it, for some things, but sure, it has been possible. So I say that it's a matter of asking, because canned courses, right, they scratch the surface, they give you an overview. And I suggest people start with, what is your need? What is your relationship to data? Because if you don't build a lot of graphs, if you do a lot of data cleansing, then you don't need to sit through a day and a half of how to make charts in Excel in a canned course. So, ask, is there a better way, or is it possible? Talk to people who know Excel, find out what that language is, because there are things like cascading drop down list. What is that? But you might go into Google and say, in Excel, Dropbox reliant on a previous Dropbox. And then,
knowing how to find the things via Google, knowing the right questions to ask, definitely, are a big part of that. When do you think, though, that people are abusing Excel? Like, you can say, it's easy to say, yeah, I think you can do it all in Excel, but at some point, it's not a database. It's not a million. I'm not going to store my banking records in it. When is there too much Excel? When is it been outgrown and now it's time to do something else? So you're pausing, like I still can't see a scenario where I can't use Excel.
Right, because...
You know what I mean? It seems like Excel is your Swiss Army knife, though. There must be a limit, though.
Yeah, there's a limit, but then there's a limit to my uses for it. Because I know people, because I was going to think, okay, you wouldn't run an international company's data on Excel.
Sure.
But then, I know people who do connect Excel to databases, and they'd be better able to answer that question.
Yeah, sure. Well, and I've seen people using, Power BI and doing data visualization. Right. So they're using Power BI, they're using Excel as a data visualizer, and it blurs the line between big data and Excel. Yes. So just when you think you can't do it in Excel, somebody goes and plugs it into a giant international database, and you're like, oh, well, I guess it could.
Yeah. So
it may not be an XLS like we think of it, but still.
Right. So it's like, looking off into the horizon and saying, I don't know what's after where the world bends downward and I can't see over there. I haven't been over there yet. When
it gets to the point where you can't do it in Excel, you'll let me know.
Yeah. I'll let you know. There have been tools, that are better, but then you have just that thing, because, I had a problem where somebody said, okay, we've got 30 students and we would like a schedule that would match each person up with another person because they're going to rotate. Okay. So how can we do that in Excel? because then you got to think about, okay, it's like Mary and John, but then you don't want to also have John and Mary as an entry. And then Mary, and John. So you can easily pair people up, but then you have to peel out those duplicates and then those same pairs. I found a round robin calculator online. Said, okay, use the round robin calculator because you got a round robin tournament is what that is. Oh, it's just got 30 teams.
Right.
So, that was better for that, but that was just a round robin tournament, calculator. It's not also a financial manager's app modeling tool.
Sure. But even that, I mean, I just actually talked to my finance guy recently, and he does a lot of his work in Excel. Mm-hmm. The only thing he's careful to do is not save data into it. So there's like Excel as analyzer and then Excel as data storage location. Mm-hmm. Right? So he doesn't put my private financial information in it, but he does transiently to do an analysis, and then he makes me some beautiful reports. Right. And he's able to modify the data. Like, it really is about putting the user in control of their data and their lives.
And that's been a concern and a complaint I've heard a lot about is, putting things in a database or in the fancy CRM, it can be disempowering. And then it can create other problems and then inspire people to go rogue and go back to Excel.
That's true. And I think that idea that disempowering the end user, whoever that end user is really what we're talking about here. That is the problem.
Yeah.
So people can check you out at datascopic.net. Mm-hmm. And from there, they can read about your book. They can go to your tutorials. You've got an extensive blog going back many years, as well as your YouTube channel, which is full of all sorts of great videos and Camtasia's teaching Excel and some of the stuff that we talked about today.
Yeah, and I've been focused more on my videos lately. That's been so much more fun and rewarding than running a blog, because
it's very immediate, isn't it?
Well, it's I have been thinking about, the difference between proprietary versus open source. Right. Mm-hmm. And WordPress is this open source world where you got regular folks and things keep changing. And oh man, I'm so tired of it.
You don't like keeping it up to date?
I don't like, and waking up one morning and my site has crashed because of some conflict with a plugin that some regular person wrote. Now I'm a hack WordPress developer. I need something proprietary. I like working with Camtasia. It doesn't have all kind of random stuff in it that regular people built and then abandoned because they say, I want to go and build wooden boats in my yard. I don't want to do programming anymore. Now I've got this plugin that's crashed my site. No, Camtasia doesn't have that. When I start with an idea, I keep going with it,
That's cool. I appreciate you holding it down for the regular people out there, and an important reminder for people to think about data literacy and to think about, hey, Excel is a product that's in your toolkit. Maybe you should give it a second look before you bang out the Visual Studio or you decide to write it in some other language.
Yeah.
Very cool. Oz du Soleil, thanks so much for chatting with me today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
This has been another episode of Hansel Minutes, and we'll see you again next week.